The Force is old and full of shadows.
Luke Skywalker stood at the edge of the abyss. His right hand, severed clean at the wrist, lay somewhere in the darkness below, fallen into the reactor shaft along with his father's lightsaber. The pain was white-hot, overwhelming, but the shock was worse. The maiming, the revelation, the impossible truth spoken in that mechanical voice. "I am your father." Darth Vader stood 3 meters away on the narrow gantry, his crimson blade deactivated and clipped to his belt. The black mask revealed nothing, but his posture was different now. Not the aggressive stance of a duelist. Something else. Almost uncertain. "Search your feelings," Vader said, his respirator cycling steadily. "You know it to be true." Luke squeezed his forearm under his left armpit, trying to stop the bleeding that had already been cauterized by the lightsaber's heat. His mind reeled. Obi-Wan had told him Vader betrayed and murdered his father. But through the Force, that connection he was only beginning to understand. He felt the truth of Vader's words like a physical weight. This man was Anakin Skywalker. His father, the monster who had terrorized the galaxy for decades, who had tortured Leia, who had frozen Han in carbonite and handed him to a bounty hunter, who had cut off Luke's hand moments ago. His father. "No," Luke whispered, though his voice carried no conviction. "No, that's not true. That's impossible. Search your feelings, Luke. You know it to be true." Vader took a step closer, hands spreading in what might have been a gesture of openness. "Join me, and together we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy." Luke's back pressed against the communications array at the gantry's dead end. Nowhere left to retreat. Behind him, the reactor shaft yawned. 2,450 kilometers of empty air. A drop that promised escape, even if that escape was death. "I'll never join you." The words came out desperate, afraid. "If you only knew the power of the dark side." Vader's voice dropped lower, almost gentle beneath the mechanical distortion. "Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him." "No." Vader's respirator cycled once, twice. "No. I am your father." The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. Luke felt his legs weaken, the pain in his arm, the shock of the maiming, the horror of the truth. It was too much. His vision swam. He looked down at the reactor shaft, at the darkness that offered one final choice. Luke Vader's voice carried an edge now. Not anger, urgency. "Luke, don't, please." That last word, "please," emerged cracked and wrong through the vocabulator. Darth Vader did not beg, did not plead, but a father might. Luke's good hand gripped the gantry railing. He could jump, end this nightmare, deny Vader the satisfaction, die as a Jedi, refusing the dark side. Except Han. Luke gasped. "What did you do with Han?" Vader paused. "Captain Solo is alive, frozen in carbonite, already delivered to the bounty hunter Boba Fett, who will take him to Jabba the Hutt. And Leia, Chewie, Lando, Princess Organa and her companions escaped Cloud City aboard the Millennium Falcon. They are beyond my reach now." Vader's mask tilted slightly. "But Solo remains my prisoner, and you, Luke, you remain here, injured, weaponless, with nowhere to go but down." Luke's mind raced despite the pain and shock. Han was gone, frozen, being delivered to a crime lord who would mount him on a wall like a trophy. And Luke was trapped on this gantry with the man who claimed to be his father, bleeding and helpless. "You could save him," Vader said quietly. Luke's head snapped up. "What?" "Captain Solo. I could retrieve him from Boba Fett. Ensure his safety." Vader took another step closer. "But only if you join me, Luke. Only if you choose to embrace your destiny." "My destiny?" Luke's voice cracked. "To become a monster like you? To become powerful, strong enough to protect the people you love, strong enough to prevent loss." Vader's respirator cycled heavily. "I know what drives you, Luke. I've watched you, studied you. You fight not for ideology or politics. You fight for your friends, for the people you care about." Luke said nothing. His silence was answer enough. "Join me," Vader continued, his voice taking on an intensity that cut through the mechanical distortion. "I will train you in the ways of the Force, both light and dark. I will teach you to harness power beyond anything Obi-Wan or Yoda could offer. And together, we will overthrow the Emperor, end his tyranny, Bring true order to the galaxy. You want to overthrow Palpatine? The Emperor has ruled through fear and destruction for too long. He is not interested in order, only in power for its own sake. Vader's hands clenched into fists. But you and I, Luke, father and son, united by blood and the Force, we could be stronger than him. We could remove him and reshape the Empire into something better, something that serves the people rather than crushing them. Luke stared at his father, trying to process. This was insane. Vader was a Sith Lord, a servant of evil. Everything Luke had been taught said to refuse, to resist, to die before falling to darkness. But what if Vader was telling the truth? What if there was a chance to save Han, to end the Emperor's reign, to transform the Empire from within? And more than that, what if refusing meant Han died? Leia and the others barely escaped, scattered and vulnerable. The rebellion had been crushed at Hoth. They were fractured, hiding, desperate. If Luke died here, if he threw himself into the reactor shaft and gave up, who would save them? I need guarantees, Luke said slowly. Vader's respirator hitched. Surprise, perhaps. Name them. Han. You get him back from Boba Fett. You keep him safe, alive. Not frozen forever. Agreed, Leia and the others. You let them go. No pursuit, no hunting them down. Vader was silent for a long moment. Princess Organa is your sister, Luke. Did you know that? Luke's world tilted again. What? Twins, separated at birth to protect you from the Emperor. Hidden from me. Vader's voice carried old pain. Your mother, Padme Amidala, gave birth to both of you before she died. You were sent to Tatooine with my stepbrother. Leia was adopted by Bail Organa of Alderaan. Luke couldn't breathe. Leia, his sister, the woman he'd... No, he'd never acted on those feelings, never even fully acknowledged them. But still, I will not harm my daughter, Vader said. She and her companions will be allowed to escape. You have my word, your word. Luke's voice was bitter. The word of Darth Vader, the word of Anakin Skywalker. Your father, Vader extended his right hand, black glove, mechanical fingers. I failed your mother, Luke. I failed the Jedi. I have failed at nearly everything except causing pain. But I will not fail you, not if you give me the chance to be what I should have been 20 years ago. A father, a protector, a teacher. Luke looked at that extended hand, at the man who had tortured his friends, who had cut off his hand, who served the most evil regime in the galaxy. His father, the man who claimed he wanted to overthrow the Emperor, who promised to save Han, who swore Leia would be safe. This is a mistake, part of Luke screamed. Jump. Die free. Don't fall to darkness. But another part, the part that had charged into Cloud City to save his friends despite Yoda's warnings, the part that would do anything to protect the people he loved, that part whispered something different. What if he's telling the truth? What if you can save Han? What if you can change things from inside? Luke's left hand, his remaining hand, reached out, their fingers clasped. Synthetic flesh against black leather, father and son, connected across an abyss of blood and betrayal. I'm doing this for them, Luke said, his voice shaking. For Han, for Leia, not for you, not for the Empire. If you're lying, if this is a trick, it's not a trick. Vader's grip was gentle, careful not to hurt Luke's remaining hand. Can you stand? Luke tried. His legs buckled. Blood loss and shock were taking their toll. Vader caught him, one arm supporting Luke's weight with mechanical strength. I have you, son. You won't fall. Luke leaned against his father, against Darth Vader, against the monster, against Anakin Skywalker, and let himself be guided away from the edge. Away from death, towards something that might be salvation or might be damnation. He didn't know which. All he knew was that Han was out there, frozen and helpless. Leia was running for her life. The rebellion was scattered. And Luke Skywalker had just made a bargain with the devil to save them all. Asterisk, the Executor. Medical Bay Asterisk. The Superstar Destroyer's medical facilities were state-of-the-art. Sterile white walls, sophisticated equipment, medical droids moving with efficient precision. Luke lay on a surgical table while a 2-1B medical droid worked on his severed wrist. The pain had been dulled by local anesthetic, but he could still feel the wrongness, the absence where his hand should be. The amputation was remarkably clean. the droid announced in its clinical monotone. Lightsaber cauterization prevented blood loss and infection. Bacta treatment will accelerate healing. Prosthetic fitting can begin within 72 hours. Vader stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed, watching. He'd removed Luke from the gantry, carried him through Cloud City's industrial corridors to a waiting Lambda-class shuttle, and brought him aboard the Executor personally. No stormtroopers, no witnesses except the pilot. Now Luke was being repaired like a piece of broken equipment. "You'll receive the finest prosthetic available," Vader said. "Neural-linked, fully articulated, identical to my own right hand." Luke turned his head to look at his father. "You lost your hand?" "I lost both arms and both legs." Vader's voice was matter-of-fact. "On Mustafar. During my final duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He left me burning on the banks of a lava river. The Emperor found me hours later, more machine than man." "Obi-Wan did that to you?" "Yes. After I had fallen to the dark side. After I had helped Palpatine destroy the Jedi Order and establish the Empire." Vader's respirator cycled. "Obi-Wan believed he was showing mercy by leaving me alive. Perhaps he was. Or perhaps he simply couldn't bring himself to deliver a killing blow to someone he'd loved as a brother." Luke processed this. The story he'd been told, Vader betraying and murdering Anakin Skywalker, was true from a certain point of view. The man Obi-Wan had known had died when Anakin fell to darkness. "Why?" Luke asked. "Why did you fall? What could possibly be worth all of this?" Vader was silent for so long that Luke thought he wouldn't answer. The medical droid continued its work, applying Bacta gel and synthetic skin grafts to the stump. "Your mother," Vader said finally, "Padme. I had visions of her dying in childbirth. The Force showed me her death, and I became obsessed with preventing it. Palpatine, then Senator Palpatine, promised me he could teach me to save her, to use the dark side to cheat death itself. Did it work? No. The single word carried decades of grief. She died anyway. Died of a broken heart," the medical droid said. "Died because I had become a monster, because I choked her in my rage, because I destroyed everything she believed in." Vader's hands clenched. "I traded my soul for power that couldn't save her. And I've spent 23 years serving the man who manipulated me into that choice." Luke stared at the ceiling. His father, Anakin Skywalker, had fallen trying to save his wife, Luke's mother, and in doing so had killed her anyway. The tragedy of it was overwhelming. "Patient's condition is stable," the medical droid reported. "Recommended treatment, 12 hours of rest, followed by physical therapy to prepare for prosthetic integration. Psychological counseling is also advised given the traumatic nature of—" "That won't be necessary," Vader interrupted. "Leave us." The droid departed. Vader moved closer to the surgical table, looming over Luke like a shadow. "I know what you're thinking," Vader said. "You're wondering if you made a mistake. If joining me was a betrayal of everything you believe in. If you've just traded your soul like I did. Have I? That depends on you." Vader's mask tilted. "The dark side is not inherently evil, Luke. It is simply power drawn from emotion. Passion, anger, fear. The Jedi teach suppression of emotion. The Sith teach embracing it. Neither approach is entirely correct. The Sith are evil. They serve themselves. They hurt people. Some do. Palpatine certainly does. But power itself is neutral. It's the wielder's intent that matters." Vader's respirator cycled. "I will teach you to use both light and dark. To draw on anger without being consumed by it. To harness passion without losing compassion. To be stronger than either Jedi or Sith, because you understand both. And then we kill the Emperor. Yes, when you're ready. When we're both certain we can defeat him." Vader moved to the viewport overlooking Cloud City's white platforms and orange clouds. "Palpatine is the most powerful Sith Lord in 1,000 years. He hides his true nature so well that the entire Jedi Council never detected him. He orchestrated the Clone Wars from both sides. He manipulated me from the age of 9. He will not be easy to destroy. But you think we can do it? I think we must try, because the alternative is continuing to serve him. Watching the galaxy suffer under his tyranny, losing more people we care about to his machinations." Vader looked back at Luke. "You joined me to save Captain Solo. That was the bargain. But I'm offering you something more. A chance to save everyone, to end Palpatine's reign and reshape the Empire into what it should have been. A force for order and stability, rather than oppression and fear." Luke wanted to believe that was possible. wanted to believe his choice hadn't been a mistake. But doubt gnawed at him. "Where do we start?" Luke asked. "First you heal, then I take you to a place where we can train without the Emperor's interference. A place where you'll learn what it truly means to wield the Force." "Where?" Vader turned back to the viewport. In the distance, Cloud City was already falling away as the Executor climbed toward orbit. "Mustafar," Vader said, "the place where Anakin Skywalker died and Darth Vader was born. The place where you will learn to be something neither Jedi nor Sith. Something new." Luke closed his eyes. His stump throbbed despite the anesthetic. His head spun with revelation after revelation. Vader was his father. Leia was his sister. Anakin fell trying to save Padme. The Emperor manipulated everything. And now Luke was going to a planet called Mustafar to learn the dark side from the galaxy's most feared enforcer. What have I done? But it was too late to take it back. The choice was made. Luke Skywalker had taken Darth Vader's hand. Now he would live with the consequences. Asterisk the Executor. Boba Fett's arrival after 6 hours later, Luke was transferred to private quarters. More prison cell than guest room, but comfortable enough. Bunk, refresher, a small viewport showing the stars, and a locked door. He sat on the bunk, staring at the bandaged stump where his right hand used to be. The medical droids had done excellent work. The wound was clean, healing already thanks to Bacta treatments. But the loss remained. His father's lightsaber, the weapon Obi-Wan had given him, the blade he'd carried through Hoth and into Cloud City, was gone. Fallen into the reactor shaft along with his severed hand. He was unarmed, maimed, trapped aboard an Imperial Star Destroyer, and he'd chosen to be here. A chime at the door. It opened before Luke could respond. Vader entered, followed by a figure in battered Mandalorian armor. Boba Fett. Luke's heart rate spiked. This was the bounty hunter who had tracked the Falcon to Cloud City, who had claimed Han as his prize, who was supposed to be delivering his friend to Jabba the Hutt right now. Lord Vader. Fett's voice emerged, distorted through his helmet. "You summoned me. The situation has changed, Fett." Vader's tone was cold, authoritative. "You will not be delivering Captain Solo to Jabba the Hutt." Fett's posture shifted. "Our agreement is amended. I will compensate you for your trouble. Double the bounty Jabba offered, plus an additional payment for discretion. Lord Vader, with respect. My reputation. Your reputation will survive." Vader took a step closer to the bounty hunter. "Or you can refuse my offer and discover what happens when I take offense." The threat hung in the air. Fett was silent for a long moment. "What do you want me to do with Solo?" "Return him to the Executor. Place him in carbonite storage within the detention level. He remains my prisoner, but alive and secure. And when Jabba asks why his prize never arrived, tell him the Empire seized Solo for intelligence purposes. Jabba will be annoyed, but he won't risk Imperial retaliation over one smuggler." Vader gestured dismissively. "You'll receive full payment within 24 hours. Standard Imperial credits, untraceable." Fett considered. "Double the bounty, plus an additional 50,000 for the inconvenience and reputation damage." "Agreed. Then we have a deal, Lord Vader." Fett's helmet turned toward Luke. "And the boy? What's his story?" "None of your concern." "Fair enough." Fett headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Lord Vader, you're making a lot of people nervous. First you let the Falcon escape Cloud City. Then you change deals with bounty hunters. The Emperor isn't going to like it." "The Emperor," Vader said coldly, "will be informed of what I choose to tell him. Nothing more." Fett departed. The door sealed behind him. Luke exhaled slowly. Han's safe. For now, frozen in carbonite, but alive. Secure in the detention level where the Emperor's spies can't reach him. Vader moved to the viewport. "You kept your end of the bargain, Luke. I'm keeping mine." "And Leia?" "You promised." Princess Organa and her companions reached the Falcon without incident. I ordered all pursuit called off. They jumped to hyperspace approximately 3 hours ago. By now they're deep in the outer rim, beyond Imperial reach. Vader's respirator cycled. "Your sister is safe. Your friend is safe. You've accomplished what you set out to do." Luke wanted to feel relieved, but all he felt was exhausted and uncertain. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. Your prosthetic will be ready in 3 days. During that time you'll remain in these quarters. Rest. Recover. Prepare yourself mentally for what comes next. Vader turned from the viewport. Training on Mustafar will be unlike anything you experienced with Obi-Wan or Yoda. It will be difficult, painful. You will be pushed to your absolute limits and beyond. I can handle it. Can you? Vader's voice carried something that might have been concern. The dark side is seductive, Luke. It offers power through emotion, through anger, through fear, through passion. Every time you draw on it, it becomes easier, and eventually, you stop resisting. You begin to crave it. You said power is neutral, that it's the intent that matters. I said that, yes. But I also know how easy it is to deceive yourself about your intentions, to believe you're using darkness for good when you're actually just surrendering to it. Vader's hands clenched. I thought I was saving your mother. I believed every choice I made was justified. And by the time I realized I'd become a monster, it was too late. She was dead. The Jedi were destroyed. And I was trapped in this armor, serving the man who'd manipulated me from the beginning. Luke met his father's gaze, or where his gaze would be, behind the black lenses of the mask. Then why are you teaching me? If the dark side corrupted you, why risk it corrupting me? Because you're stronger than I was. Vader's voice was quiet. You have something I lost long before I fell, hope. Belief in people, the ability to see good even in enemies. Those qualities are your strength, Luke. They're also your vulnerability. The Emperor will try to use them against you, just as he used my love for your mother against me. So what do? You remember who you are. You hold on to the people you love, not possessively, not desperately, but as anchors keeping you connected to the light. Vader moved toward the door. And you trust that when the time comes to face Palpatine, you'll be strong enough to resist him. Because if you're not, then I've failed you the same way I failed your mother. The door opened. Vader paused in the threshold. Rest, Luke. I'll return tomorrow to check on your progress. Wait. Luke stood. Before you go, tell me about her. About my mother. Padme. I want to know who she was. Vader's respirator cycled several times before he spoke. She was everything, he said finally. Brave, compassionate, intelligent. She believed in democracy even when surrounded by corruption. She fought for the people no one else cared about. And she loved me despite every reason not to. His voice grew softer. You have her eyes, Luke. And her stubborn refusal to give up on lost causes, even when you should. She sounds incredible. She was. And I killed her. Vader's voice hardened. Remember that when you're tempted to think the dark side offers easy answers, remember what it cost me. Remember what it cost her. He left. The door sealed. Luke sat back down on the bunk, staring at his bandaged stump. He'd made a deal with Darth Vader, joined him, agreed to learn the dark side, to save his friends, to overthrow the Emperor, to become something new, neither Jedi nor Sith. What if I can't do it? Luke thought. What if I fall like he did? What if I become a monster trying to be a hero? But it was too late for doubt. The choice was made. Luke Skywalker was going to Mustafar. And one way or another, nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk, the Millennium Falcon. Hyperspace axis light years away, Princess Leia Organa sat in the Falcon's cockpit, staring at the swirling tunnel of hyperspace. They'd escaped. Barely. Lando's warning about Vader's troops, the wing guard's ambush, R2-D2 unlocking the hyperdrive just as the executor nearly caught them in a tractor beam. They'd escaped. But Luke was gone. Princess. Lando's voice was gentle. You should rest. We're still hours from the rendezvous point. I can't rest. Leia's voice was hollow. Not when Luke is... She couldn't finish. Couldn't say the words aloud. Luke had gone to Cloud City against Yoda's warnings, against Leia's protests. Determined to save them, convinced he could face Vader and win. And now he was either dead or captured. Either way, lost. He's alive, Chewbacca rumbled from the pilot's seat. Leia looked at the Wookiee. How can you know that? Because Vader wanted him alive. That's why he set the trap. If he'd wanted Luke dead, he could have destroyed him on Hoth. Chewbacca's blue eyes showed pain. But Han is with Fett, being delivered to Jabba. We're going to lose him. Leia closed her eyes. Han, frozen in carbonite. Luke, captured by Vader. The Alliance scattered after Hoth. Everything was falling apart. We'll get them back, she said, forcing steel into her voice. Both of them. We'll find Han on Tatooine. We'll discover where Vader took Luke, and we'll rescue them. How? Lando asked quietly. Princess, the Alliance barely survived Hoth. We've lost bases, ships, personnel. Mon Mothma is talking about dispersing the fleet entirely to prevent another massacre. We don't have the resources for rescue missions. Then I'll go alone. Leia, I'm not abandoning them. Her voice cracked. Han and Luke, they're everything. They're my friends. She stopped, unwilling to speak the feelings she'd tried to suppress. I won't leave them, Chewbacca growled agreement. Lando sighed. Okay. When we reach the rendezvous, we'll talk to Mon Mothma. Put together a plan. But Princess, you need to understand. If Luke was captured, if Vader has him, he might already be beyond saving. What do you mean? Vader turns people. That's what he does. The Inquisitors were all former Jedi he corrupted. If he has Luke, he'll try to… Lando couldn't finish. Leia felt cold. Turn Luke? Make him into something like Vader? No, that was impossible. Luke was too good. Too pure. He'd never fall to the dark side. But a small voice whispered in the back of her mind. Anakin Skywalker fell. If he could turn, anyone can. We have to trust him, Leia said firmly. Trust that Luke is strong enough to resist. And we have to be ready to help him when he needs us. You have that much faith in him? Yes. Leia met Lando's eyes. Because Luke has that much faith in everyone else. He believed there was good in Vader. Maybe he was right. Maybe he's finding a way to reach that good even now. It was a desperate hope, a foolish hope. But it was all she had. The Falcon hurtled through hyperspace, carrying the survivors toward an uncertain future. Behind them, aboard the Executor, Luke Skywalker slept fitfully in his cell, dreaming of fire and darkness and a father's fallen face. And ahead of them, 3 days' journey away, Mustafar waited, the place where Anakin Skywalker had died. The place where Luke Skywalker would be reborn. As what? Remained to be seen. Asterisk, the Executor. Prosthetic fitting Adam 72 hours after Cloud City, Luke sat in the medical bay while 1B attached his new hand. The prosthetic was a masterwork of Imperial engineering. Synthetic skin over a skeletal frame of Durastale and servomotors, neural connectors that interface directly with the nerve endings in his stump, translating thought into movement with zero lag. Identical to Vader's own right hand, the droid had said. Flex the fingers, 1B instructed. Luke concentrated. The prosthetic fingers curled into a fist, then extended. Perfect articulation. Full range of motion. If he didn't look at it, he could almost convince himself it was real. But it wasn't real. It was artificial, a replacement for what Vader had taken from him. What my father took from me, Luke corrected himself. The distinction mattered. Vader was the Sith Lord, the Enforcer, the monster, but Anakin Skywalker was his father. Luke had to remember that, had to hold on to the difference, even if they were the same person. The integration is optimal, the droid announced. Full functionality achieved. You may experience phantom sensations initially, but they will diminish over time. Thank you. The droid departed. Luke sat alone, flexing his new hand, watching the synthetic tendons move beneath the artificial skin. The door opened. Vader entered, carrying a long object wrapped in cloth. How does it feel? Vader asked. Strange, but functional. Luke stood. Is it time? Yes. We depart for Mustafar within the hour. Vader placed the wrapped object on the medical table. But first, you'll need this. Luke unwrapped the cloth. A lightsaber, but not his father's blue blade. This one was different, sleeker, the hilt black metal with red accents. Sith aesthetic. I don't have a kyber crystal, Luke said. I know. You'll construct your own weapon on Mustafar. But for now, you'll carry this training saber. It's set to low power. Enough to deflect blaster bolts. Not enough to kill. Vader's respirator cycled. When you're ready, when you've proven yourself, you'll bleed a crystal and create your true weapon. Bleed a crystal? Kyber crystals naturally align with the light side of the Force. To create a red blade, a Sith must corrupt the crystal. Channel rage and hatred into it until it bleeds and turns red. It's a test, a trial, and one you're not ready for yet. Luke picked up the training saber. It felt wrong in his artificial hand. The weight was right, but the sensation was muted, filtered through synthetic nerves. Will I ever get used to this? Luke asked, flexing the prosthetic. Yes, I've worn prosthetics for 23 years. Eventually, they become part of you. You stop thinking of them as artificial. Vader moved closer. But you'll never forget that you lost the original. That reminder serves a purpose. It keeps you aware of the cost of failure. Is that why you keep the scars? Why you don't have reconstructive surgery? Vader was silent for a moment. Partly, but mostly because the suit keeps me alive. My lungs were destroyed on Mustafar. My body is so damaged that removing the armor for more than a few minutes would kill me. I am trapped inside this machine, Luke, prisoner of my own choices. Luke looked at his father, at the black armor, the respirator, the mask that hid whatever remained of Anakin Skywalker's face. When we overthrow the Emperor, Luke said, maybe we can fix you. Find better technology. Give you back your life? Perhaps. But Vader's tone suggested he didn't believe it. Come, we have a long journey ahead. They left the medical bay and made their way through the executor's corridors. Officers and stormtroopers stepped aside, bowing to Vader, eyeing Luke with barely concealed curiosity. The Dark Lord's new apprentice. That's what they thought he was. Maybe they were right. The thought made Luke's stomach turn. They reached the hangar bay where Vader's personal Lambda-class shuttle waited. The pilot, a nameless officer in standard Imperial uniform, saluted as they boarded. Set course for Mustafar, Vader commanded. Maximum speed, and ensure we're not followed. This journey remains classified. Yes, Lord Vader. The shuttle lifted off, departing the Executor's massive hangar. Through the viewport, Luke watched the Superstar Destroyer shrink as they accelerated away. Somewhere on that ship, deep in the detention levels, Han Solo lay frozen in carbonite. Alive but trapped. Safe but helpless, Luke had kept his promise. Saved his friend. But at what cost? The shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Stars stretched into lines. The blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel surrounded them. Vader settled into the passenger compartment's meditation seat. Luke sat across from him, the training saber clipped awkwardly to his belt. How long until we arrive? Luke asked. 16 hours. Rest if you can. When we reach Mustafar, your training begins immediately. Tell me about it. The planet. The fortress. Vader was silent for several respirator cycles. Then, Mustafar is a volcanic world. Rivers of lava. Ash storms. Toxic atmosphere. It sits on a dark side nexus, ancient Sith energies concentrated in the planet's core. My fortress was built atop that nexus, designed by a Sith architect named Darth Vader specifically to channel and amplify dark side power. Why build a fortress on a hell world? Because it's where I died, where Anakin Skywalker burned and Darth Vader was born. Palpatine chose the location deliberately to remind me of my failure, to bind me to my worst moment. Vader's hands clenched. But I've turned it into something else. A place of power, a sanctuary where I can think and plan without the Emperor's constant surveillance. Does he know about it? He knows I have a fortress on Mustafar. He doesn't know what I do there. What I've learned, what I've prepared. Vader leaned forward. The fortress contains Sith artifacts, ancient holocrons, knowledge the Emperor believes he alone possesses. I've been gathering resources for years, Luke, preparing for the day when I could challenge him. And now you can. Now we can. Together, if you survive the training. The words hung ominously in the air. Luke swallowed his fear. I'll survive. I hope so, son. Vader stood. Rest now. I'll wake you when we approach Mustafar. He moved to the shuttle's aft meditation chamber, leaving Luke alone with his thoughts. Luke stared out the viewport at the blue tunnel of hyperspace. 16 hours until Mustafar. 16 hours until his training in the dark side began. 16 hours to wonder if he'd made the right choice. Or the worst mistake of his life. Mustafar. Arrival, the shuttle dropped from hyperspace into a system painted in shades of red and black. Mustafar hung against the void like a wound. A planet of volcanic fury, its surface cracked with rivers of molten lava that glowed like veins of fire. Ash clouds swirled through the toxic atmosphere. Even from orbit, Luke could feel the heat radiating from the tortured world, and beneath that heat, something else. A pressure in the force, a darkness that made his skin crawl and his breath catch. This wasn't the clean, focused malevolence of Vader or the Emperor. This was something older, primal, a wound in the Force itself. The dark side nexus, Vader said, standing beside Luke at the viewport. You feel it. It's overwhelming. Luke's good hand pressed against the transparent steel. How do you stand it? By surrendering to it, letting it flow through you rather than resisting. Vader's respirator cycled. That's the first lesson, Luke. The dark side is not your enemy. Fear and denial make it dangerous. Acceptance makes it powerful. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere. Heat shimmers distorted the view. Volcanic ash pelted the hull with sounds like rainfall. Through breaks in the smoke, Luke caught glimpses of the surface. Black stone, glowing lava flows, and rising from it all like a monument to darkness itself. Fortress Vader. The structure was massive, angular, built from black metal and volcanic stone. It perched on a plateau overlooking a lava river, its towers reaching toward the ash-choked sky like clawed fingers. At its peak, an observation dome glowed with internal light. The design was deliberately intimidating, Sith architecture. But beneath the menace, Luke recognized something else: pain. This fortress had been built on suffering, designed by it. This is where Obi-Wan left you, Luke said quietly. Not here specifically, but close. The remains of the mining facility where we dueled lie 17 kilometers east. Vader's voice was hollow. I screamed for hours before the Emperor's shuttle arrived. The lava had burned away my legs, my remaining arm. My lungs were destroyed by superheated ash. I should have died. Part of me wishes I had. Luke couldn't find words. The horror of what his father had endured, what Obi-Wan had left him to endure, was beyond comprehension. Why did he do it? Luke asked. Why didn't Obi-Wan kill you cleanly? Why leave you to suffer? Because he couldn't bring himself to deliver a killing blow. I was his brother, his student, his closest friend for 13 years. He'd already cut off my legs and my arm, defeating me absolutely. To strike me down while I was helpless and burning would have been murder, not combat. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, for all his Jedi wisdom, couldn't bring himself to commit that murder. Vader's respirator cycled heavily. So he left me to die slowly instead. Perhaps he thought it was mercy. Perhaps he thought the Force would decide my fate. But the Emperor found you. Yes, Palpatine had been tracking our duel through the Force. He knew where we were, knew the outcome before it finished. He wanted me alive, Luke. Broken and dependent, but alive. A weapon he could control absolutely. The shuttle settled onto a landing platform. The ramp extended, and heat rolled in like a physical wall. Luke felt sweat immediately bead on his forehead, despite the shuttle's climate control. Come, Vader commanded. Your training begins now. They descended the ramp onto Mustafar's surface. The heat was crushing. The air tasted of sulfur and ash. Luke's eyes watered. His lungs burned with each breath. Vader seemed unaffected. His armor and respirator insulated him from the hostile environment. This is torture, Luke gasped. This is the first test. Vader walked toward the fortress entrance. Use the Force to regulate your body temperature. Create a barrier between yourself and the environment. If you can't manage this, you won't survive the training ahead. Luke stumbled after his father, trying to remember Yoda's lessons. Feel the Force. Let it flow through you. Use it too. But Yoda had never taught him environmental control. Jedi training on Dagobah had been about lifting rocks and sensing the future, not surviving on volcanic hellworlds. I don't know how, Luke shouted over the roar of a distant lava flow. Vader stopped and turned back. Then you'll learn. Channel your discomfort, your anger at being brought here, your resentment of my expectations. Let those emotions fuel the Force. Use your rage to protect yourself. The Jedi said. The Jedi are extinct, Vader's voice cut like a blade. Their teachings failed them. Failed me, failed the entire Republic. What use is serenity when it leaves you defenseless? What good is emotional suppression when it means you can't save the people you love? Luke gritted his teeth. The heat was unbearable. His vision swam. He was going to pass out. No, he wouldn't. Couldn't. He'd come here for a reason. To save Han. To overthrow the Emperor. To become strong enough to protect everyone he cared about. The anger surged. Anger at the heat. Anger at his father for bringing him here. Anger at Obi-Wan for lying to him. Anger at the Emperor for manipulating his father. Anger at the universe for being so cruel and unfair. And with that anger came power. Luke felt the Force shift around him, not the gentle, harmonious flow Yoda had taught. This was sharp, aggressive, electric. It poured into him like lightning. and he shaped it with desperate instinct, creating a barrier, a buffer between his skin and the superheated air. The heat diminished, still present, still oppressive, but no longer lethal. Good, Vader said with approval. You've taken your first step into darkness. Now hold it. Maintain the barrier as we walk. They entered the fortress. Fortress Vader, the Grand Hall. The interior was cooler, but no less oppressive. Black stone walls absorbed light. Sith runes carved into the architecture glowed faintly red. The aesthetic was ancient, predating even the Old Republic, designs from the original Sith Empire, when Dark Lords openly ruled vast sectors of the galaxy. Vader led Luke through corridors lit by crimson lighting. They passed meditation chambers, libraries filled with holocrons and scrolls, training rooms equipped with combat remotes and targeting systems. And everywhere, Luke felt the darkness pressing down. The nexus Vader had mentioned. Ancient Sith energies concentrated beneath the fortress, seeping through the stone, poisoning the very air. This was built by Darth Vader, Vader said as they walked. A Sith Lord from 1,000 years ago, his consciousness survived through his mask, a Sith artifact I recovered. He possessed several of my engineers and designed this fortress specifically to amplify dark-side power. It took 9 construction attempts before we successfully harnessed the Nexus energies. What happened to him? Momin? I destroyed him once his purpose was served. He wanted to use the fortress to open a portal to the dark side realm, to resurrect his physical body. I had different goals. Vader stopped at a massive door. This is the meditation chamber at the fortress's heart. The Nexus Point, the place where the dark side is strongest. He opened the door. The chamber beyond was circular, perhaps 20 meters in diameter. The walls were smooth black stone, covered in carved Sith runes that pulsed with internal light. At the chamber's center sat a raised platform with 2 meditation seats facing each other. And beneath the platform, visible through transparisteel set into the floor, a pool of lava churned and glowed. The fortress is built directly above an active lava flow, Vader explained. Momin's design uses the geological energy to amplify the spiritual energy. Heat and pressure become metaphors for rage and suffering. Physical pain translates into force power. Luke stared at the churning lava beneath his feet. This is insane. This is Sith philosophy distilled to its purest form. Vader moved to one of the meditation seats. Sit. We begin your training now. Luke crossed to the opposite seat. The heat from below was intense even through the transparisteel. Sweat ran down his face. His clothes stuck to his skin. Vader settled into his seat with mechanical precision. Close your eyes. Extend your awareness through the Force. Feel the Nexus around you. Don't resist it. Don't try to impose Jedi serenity. Simply observe. Luke obeyed. Eyes closed, awareness extending. The darkness hit him like a tsunami. Pain, rage, anguish. Centuries of Sith Lords had bled their suffering into this place. Their deaths, their betrayals, their consuming hatred, all of it had seeped into the stone, into the lava, into the very fabric of reality here. And beneath it all, one presence stronger than the rest, his father's pain. Luke felt it like a scream echoing through time. Anakin Skywalker burning on the lava banks, screaming Padme's name, consumed by rage and self-hatred and the dawning horror of what he'd done. Don't retreat, Vader commanded, sensing Luke's instinct to pull back. Feel it, all of it. This is the truth the Jedi never taught you. Suffering is the foundation of existence. Pain is universal. The question is whether you're strong enough to transform that pain into power. It's too much. Then you'll drown in it. Die here, in this chamber, destroyed by your own weakness. Or you'll find the strength to channel it, to use it. Vader's voice grew harder. Your mother died in agony. Han Solo is frozen in carbonite, trapped in conscious paralysis. Leia runs for her life from Imperial forces that will never stop hunting her. The galaxy bleeds under Palpatine's tyranny. All of that is true. All of that is real suffering. Will you use it or will you be crushed by it? Luke's hands clenched. The prosthetic fingers dug into his palm with synthetic strength. His mother. Dead. Killed by his father's fall to darkness. Han. Frozen. Helpless. Leia. Running. Hunted. And the Emperor, the architect of all this suffering, sitting on Coruscant, untouched, continuing to spread his poison across the galaxy. The anger returned, not the desperate surge from the landing platform. This was colder, more focused. A burning fury that demanded justice, demanded retribution, demanded power sufficient to end the suffering. Luke opened his eyes. They blazed yellow. Good, Vader said. His own lenses reflected the golden glow. Now channel it into the Force. Let me feel your rage. Luke extended his awareness again. But this time, instead of observing passively, he pushed, sent his anger outward like a weapon. The temperature in the chamber spiked. The lava beneath them churned more violently. The Sith runes carved into the walls flared brighter. Excellent. Again, Luke poured more emotion into the Force. His breathing quickened. His heart pounded. The artificial hand sparked as excess energy bled through its neural connections. You're holding back, Vader said. Why? Because I'm afraid. The admission burst out. Afraid of becoming like you. Afraid of falling so far I can't come back. Fear is natural. Fear keeps you cautious. But fear cannot master you. You must master it. Vader stood. On your feet. We move to combat training. Fortress Vader. Training Chamber 1. The training room was sparse. Open floor. High ceiling. Combat remotes hovering at the ready. Racks of training weapons along one wall. Vader handed Luke the training saber. Activate it. Luke ignited the blade. It hummed to life, not the clean blue of his lost weapon, but a sickly orange-red. Low power, as Vader had said, but the color alone felt wrong. Corrupted. Form V Gem So, Vader said, igniting his own blade at full power. The form I mastered. It emphasizes strength and aggression. Every defense becomes a counterattack. Every block creates an opening. Physical power overwhelming the opponent. He moved into an opening stance. Watch, Vader demonstrated, a series of strikes that flowed with brutal efficiency. Heavy overhead slashes transitioning into sweeping horizontal cuts. Blade locks that used superior strength to drive opponents off balance. Counterstrikes that punished any attempted offense. The Jedi teach Form 3, Soresu, as the ultimate defensive style. Minimal movement, maximum energy conservation. It's effective against blaster fire and multiple opponents, but in single combat against a skilled duelist, Soresu is too passive. You wait for your opponent to make mistakes rather than creating opportunities. Vader returned to ready position. Form V is active defense. You force your opponent into mistakes. Now, attack me. Luke raised his training saber. His prosthetic hand gripped the hilt with perfect pressure. But the sensation remained wrong. Muted. Artificial. He struck. Vader parried and immediately riposted. The crimson blade came at Luke's midsection in a blur. Luke barely blocked, his arms jarring from the impact of Vader's mechanical strength. Again, put your weight behind it. Use your anger. Make me feel your intent to harm. Luke attacked again. Harder. Faster. Vader deflected effortlessly and swept Luke's legs. Luke crashed to the floor, training saber flying from his artificial hand. Your prosthetic troubles you. You're compensating for the reduced sensation by overgripping. Relax. Trust the neural interface. Luke climbed to his feet and retrieved the saber. It's not the same as a real hand. No, it's better. Stronger. Capable of grip pressures that would shatter bone. Your weakness is psychological, not physical. Vader moved back into position. Again, they repeated the pattern. Luke attacked. Vader deflected and countered. Luke found himself on the floor or disarmed within seconds every time. You're treating this like sparring, Vader said after the 20th repetition. Polite. Restrained, as if you're afraid to hurt me. In real combat, hesitation means death. I don't want to hurt you. Why not? I cut off your hand. I tortured your friends. I froze Han Solo and handed him to a bounty hunter. I've served evil for 23 years. Give me one reason I don't deserve your rage. Luke's jaw clenched. Because you're my father. Irrelevant. Anakin Skywalker was your father. I am Darth Vader, the machine that destroyed him. If you can't separate those identities, you'll never be strong enough to face the Emperor. Vader's blade came up. So I'll make it easier for you. I'm going to hurt you now, and you're going to learn to fight back. He attacked. Not the controlled demonstration strikes from before. This was real combat. Vader's blade moved with lethal speed and mechanical precision. Luke barely managed to block the first strike. The second crashed through his guard and burned a line across his shoulder, Not deep enough to seriously injure thanks to the saber's low power setting, but enough to sear flesh and send pain lancing through him. Luke stumbled back, crying out. "Fight," Vader commanded. "Use the pain. Let it fuel you." Another strike, Luke blocked desperately. The impact sent shockwaves up his arms. "Your anger. Give it to me." Luke's vision blurred with tears of pain and frustration. This was insane. His father was attacking him, actually trying to hurt him, pushing him to embrace darkness. And Han is frozen, and Leia is running, and the Emperor sits on his throne laughing at all of us. The anger surged. Luke roared and struck back. His blade met Vader's with a crack like thunder. Sparks erupted. For a moment, just a moment, Luke drove his father back a step. Yes, Vader's approval rang through the training chamber. "More! Show me your power." They dueled. Luke attacked with wild fury, his technique abandoned in favor of pure aggression. Vader met him strike for strike, blade clashing against blade, the sound echoing off stone walls. Luke's eyes burned yellow. His prosthetic hand gripped the saber with crushing force. He could feel the dark side flowing through him, sharp, electric, intoxicating. Every strike fueled by rage, every block reinforced by hatred. He was strong, powerful, unstoppable. And then Vader swept his legs again, and Luke crashed to the floor for the 21st time. "Better," Vader said, breathing no harder despite the exertion. "You channeled your anger effectively. But you lost discipline. Rage without technique is just flailing. You must marry emotion to form. Passion with precision." Luke lay on the floor, exhausted. His shoulder burned where Vader had struck him. His muscles screamed. His mind felt fuzzy, drunk on dark side energy. "How long do we train today?" Luke gasped. "We don't stop." "What?" "Sith training is not a few hours each day like Jedi instruction. You train until you collapse. Then you recover in a bacta tank. Then you train again. Pain, failure, recovery, growth. The cycle continues until you're strong enough to survive the Emperor." Vader gestured. "On your feet, we continue." Luke wanted to protest, wanted to refuse, but he forced himself upright, ignited his training saber, and raised it into ready position. If this was what it took to save his friends, he would endure it, no matter the cost. Fortress Vader, meditation chamber, night cycle. Hours later, Luke had lost count of how many. Vader finally called a halt. "You've reached your limit. Further training now would cause injury without benefit." Vader deactivated his blade. "Go. Back to treatment awaits in the medical chamber. Then rest. We resume at dawn." Luke could barely walk. His entire body was one massive bruise. The burn on his shoulder throbbed. His prosthetic hand sparked intermittently from the abuse it had taken. He stumbled through the fortress corridors until he found the medical chamber. A bacta tank stood against one wall, its green fluid glowing softly. Luke stripped off his sweat-soaked clothes and climbed into the tank. The bacta was cool, soothing. It took the edge off the pain and accelerated healing at the cellular level. Luke floated in the suspension fluid, breathing through a respirator mask, letting the exhaustion drain away. But his mind wouldn't rest. He'd felt it during the duel, the seductive pull of the dark side, the way anger made him strong. The rush of power that came from surrendering to rage, it had felt good. That terrified him more than anything. This was how his father had fallen. Anakin Skywalker had started down this path, using dark emotions to gain power, telling himself it was for a good cause, believing he could control it, and ended as Darth Vader, a slave to the Emperor, a monster in black armor. "I'm not like him," Luke told himself. "I'm doing this to save people, to overthrow Palpatine. Not for myself, not for power, for them." But the distinction felt thinner than it should. Hours passed. The bacta worked its healing. Luke's burns faded to pink scar tissue. His bruises diminished. His exhaustion receded. He climbed from the tank, dried himself, and found fresh clothes laid out, black, Sith style. A tunic and pants similar to Vader's underlayer, minus the armor. Luke dressed and made his way to his assigned quarters. The room was Spartan, bunk, refresher, small viewport overlooking the lava flow. But compared to the training chamber, it felt like luxury. He collapsed onto the bunk and immediately fell into fitful sleep. Dreams of fire, Luke dreamed. He stood on a river of lava, Volcanic ash fell like black snow. The heat was unbearable, but he felt no pain, only rage. Across from him, Obi-Wan Kenobi stood on higher ground. The old Jedi Master's face was lined with sorrow. "You were the chosen one," Obi-Wan shouted. "It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness." But Luke wasn't Luke. He was Anakin. Young, whole, eyes blazing Sith yellow. "I hate you," Anakin Luke screamed. "You turned her against me. You have done that yourself." Obi-Wan's lightsaber blazed blue. "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you," they charged. Blades met. The duel was a blur of motion and light. They fought across crumbling platforms, vaulting over lava flows, locked in combat that could only end one way. Anakin Luke leaped, attempting the high ground. Obi-Wan's blade swept across, severed both legs, severed the remaining arm. Anakin Luke fell, rolled down volcanic rock toward the lava's edge, stopped at the very precipice. "You were my brother," Obi-Wan said again, tears streaming. "I loved you." Then he turned and walked away, leaving Anakin Luke burning. The pain was beyond description. Flesh melting, lungs filling with superheated ash, vision going dark except for the flames. And through it all, one thought, one name. Padme. Luke woke screaming. He sat up in the bunk, drenched in sweat, gasping. His prosthetic hand was clenched so hard, the servo motors whined. It had been Vader's memory. Somehow, sleeping in this fortress built on his father's pain, Luke had accessed those memories through the Force, felt what Anakin Skywalker felt in his final moments as a Jedi. The betrayal, the rage, the unbearable suffering. "You're awake," Vader's voice said from the doorway. Luke spun. His father stood in the threshold, arms crossed. Had he been watching? "I dreamed," Luke began. "I know what you dreamed. The fortress amplifies Force connections. Your mind touched mine while you slept." Vader entered the room. "You felt what I felt. On Mustafar, when Obi-Wan left me to burn. It was horrific. Yes, and that horror is what forged me into what I became. Palpatine found me hours later. He could have saved me cleanly, given me proper medical treatment, restored my body with cloned limbs and synthetic organs. Instead, he sealed me into this armor, gave me just enough life support to survive, but not enough to be comfortable. Every breath hurts, Luke. Every moment in this suit is pain. That pain fuels my power, makes me strong, and keeps me dependent on the Emperor who controls the technology keeping me alive." Luke looked at his father with new understanding. "You're his prisoner. I've always been his prisoner. From the moment he began grooming me at age 9. Every choice I thought was mine, he'd orchestrated. Every fear, every desire, every attachment, he manipulated all of it." Vader's hands clenched. "That's what we're fighting against, Luke. Not just his political power, his ability to corrupt, to twist good intentions into weapons, to make people believe they're choosing freely when they're just dancing to his design. How do we stop someone like that? By becoming stronger than him, by learning his methods and then surpassing them, by using the power he taught me against him." Vader moved to the viewport. Outside, lava flowed endlessly. "But you must be careful. The same tools that make us strong enough to defeat him could also corrupt us into becoming what he is. That's the danger, Luke. That's why so many Sith fall into the same patterns as their masters. Then how? By remembering why we're doing this. By holding on to the people we love as anchors. By staying connected to the light even as we wield the dark." Vader looked back at Luke. "Your mother kept me human for years. Even as I fell to darkness, Padme's love was a lifeline. When she died, that lifeline was severed. I had nothing left to keep me from falling completely. But you have something now. Yes. I have you, my son. Living proof that Anakin Skywalker's legacy isn't just destruction and suffering. That somewhere beneath this armor, something human remains." Vader's respirator cycled. "Don't let me fall again, Luke. When we face the Emperor, when the temptation to surrender fully to darkness becomes overwhelming, remind me who I was, who I could be again." Luke stood. Despite his lingering exhaustion, despite his terror of what he was becoming, he moved to his father's side. "I promise," Luke said. They stood together at the viewport, watching Mustafar burn. Father and son, Jedi and Sith, light and dark, preparing for a war that would determine the galaxy's fate. Fortress Vader. 3 months later, time became meaningless on Mustafar. There was training, pain, recovery. Then more training. The cycle repeated endlessly. Luke lost track of days. His world narrowed to the fortress, the training chambers, the meditation room above the churning lava. His body adapted. The burns from practice duels became scars, then faded under Bacta treatment. His muscles hardened. His prosthetic hand integrated fully. He stopped thinking of it as artificial, started treating it as simply his hand. His connection to the Force deepened. The meditation chamber's nexus no longer overwhelmed him. He learned to channel its energies, use them to amplify his power. The rage and suffering that had initially drowned him became fuel for his abilities. And his eyes. Luke avoided mirrors. But he knew. During combat, during meditation, during moments of anger, his eyes blazed yellow. The corruption was visible. Undeniable. He was falling, but he told himself it was controlled. Temporary. Necessary. He told himself he was still Luke Skywalker. Vader pushed him relentlessly. Form V lightsaber combat until Luke could match his father's strikes. Force techniques, telekinesis, enhanced speed, limited precognition, advanced meditation, learning to hide his presence in the Force to mask his intentions. The Emperor can sense thoughts, Vader explained during one session. Read intentions. Anticipate actions. If we're to surprise him, you must learn absolute mental discipline. Quaytech meditation, the technique Palpatine himself used to hide from the Jedi Council for decades. Luke practiced, built walls in his mind, created false surface thoughts while hiding his true intentions deeper. It worked. Within weeks, Vader admitted he could no longer easily read Luke's emotional state. The boy had learned to deceive even his father, a necessary skill, but a dangerous one. 3 months after arriving on Mustafar, Vader called Luke to the fortress's artifact vault. The chamber was small, lined with shelves holding Sith holocrons, ancient lightsabers, and other relics from a darker age. At the room's center, on a pedestal, rested a single object. A kyber crystal, unbleached, natural, glowing with soft blue light. "Where did you get this?" Luke asked. "I took it from a Jedi I killed, years ago, during the Purge." Vader's voice was flat. His name was Kirak Infala, a Jedi Master who survived Order 66. "Palpatine sent me to hunt him down. To prove my loyalty, you killed him for his crystal." "Yes, and I used it to create my own lightsaber, bled it red through dark side corruption." Vader gestured to the blue crystal. "This one I've saved. For you." Luke stared at the crystal. It pulsed gently in the Force alive, aware, naturally aligned with the light side. "You're going to teach me to bleed it," Luke said. "Yes, if you're ready." Vader's respirator cycled. "This is a threshold, Luke. A point of no return. Once you corrupt a kyber crystal, once you force it to serve the dark side against its nature, you cross a line. The Jedi would consider you fallen, irredeemable. But you don't believe that. I believe redemption is always possible. But I also believe some actions leave permanent marks. This will be one of them." Vader's mask turned toward Luke. "Are you prepared?" Luke reached out and lifted the crystal with the Force. It came to his prosthetic hand willingly, settling into his artificial palm. The glow intensified, the crystal sensing his Force presence, reaching out, connecting. And in that connection, Luke felt resistance. The crystal didn't want this, didn't want to be corrupted. It showed him visions, flashes of another path. Luke training on Dagobah with Yoda, constructing a green lightsaber using Obi-Wan's journals, confronting the Emperor with Jedi serenity rather than Sith rage. Redemption, light, hope, all of it possible if he simply refused this moment. Walked away, chose the Jedi path despite its difficulties. Luke closed his prosthetic fingers around the crystal. The visions shattered. "I'm ready," he said. The bleeding ritual Vader led Luke to the meditation chamber above the lava flow. They sat across from each other, the blue kyber crystal resting on the platform between them. "You must channel your rage," Vader instructed. "Your pain. Every negative emotion you possess. Focus it into the crystal. Force it to submit, break its will, and remake it in your image. And if it resists, then you overcome that resistance. Or you fail and the crystal cracks, ruined, useless. A permanent reminder of your inadequacy." Vader's voice hardened. "But you will not fail. You're my son. You're strong enough for this." Luke reached for the crystal again, held it in both hands, flesh and synthetics, closed his eyes, reached into the Force. The crystal's presence was immediate, bright, pure. It radiated light-side energy like a miniature sun. Luke began to channel darkness into it. His rage at the Emperor for manipulating his father, his anger at Obi-Wan for lying about his parentage, his fear for Han, trapped in carbonite, his resentment of the Jedi for failing to prevent the Empire's rise. The crystal resisted, fought back, showed him more visions. Padme Amidala, smiling. "This is not who you are, Luke. You're better than this." Obi-Wan's ghost, serene and sad. "The dark side is not the answer. Trust in the Force. Trust in the light." Leia's voice, desperate. "Luke, where are you? What have you become?" And Han frozen in carbonite, eyes wide with betrayal. "You chose this? You chose him?" "No," Luke shouted. He poured more rage into the crystal. "This is for them, to save them, to make me strong enough to protect everyone." The visions intensified. He saw himself as he might become, eyes permanently yellow, face twisted with rage, standing over Leia's corpse with a crimson lightsaber. A monster wearing Luke Skywalker's face. "That's not me," Luke's voice cracked. "That's not who I am." "Then who are you?" the crystal seemed to ask. "Jedi or Sith? Light or dark? Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader's apprentice?" I'm... Luke didn't know anymore. The crystal showed him one final vision. Luke as an old man, hermit robes, standing on a windswept planet, alone, everyone he loved dead or lost, the galaxy suffering under Empire or worse. Was that the Jedi path? Isolation? Failure? Or was that the fate he was trying to prevent by taking this darker road? Luke made his choice. He channeled everything, all his pain, all his rage, all his desperate need to protect the people he loved, and forced it into the crystal with overwhelming power. The crystal screamed, not audibly, but through the Force. Luke felt its anguish as it was corrupted against its nature, felt the light-side connection severed, felt darkness seeping in, like poison. The blue glow flickered, dimmed, turned red. Luke opened his eyes. In his hands, the Kyber crystal pulsed with crimson light. Corrupted, bled, remade in darkness. He'd done it. "Well done," Vader said. There might have been pride in his voice, or there might have been regret. Luke couldn't tell any more. He stared at the red crystal. His crystal now, the physical proof of his fall. "What do I do with it?" Luke asked quietly. "You build your weapon. Tomorrow we'll construct your lightsaber. A true Sith blade?" Vader stood. "Rest tonight. You've earned it." Luke remained in the meditation chamber after Vader left. He sat alone, staring at the red crystal, watching the lava churn beneath the transparisteel floor. He'd crossed the line, done the irredeemable thing, become exactly what the Jedi would call a fallen apprentice. But he'd done it for the right reasons, hadn't he? Hadn't he? Luke had no answer. Only the red crystal's glow, only the darkness pressing in from every side, and the terrible certainty that there was no going back now. Fortress Vader, the lightsaber, Luke Skywalker stood in the workshop, his red kyber crystal floating before him, surrounded by components for a lightsaber hilt. The construction was meditative, precise, each piece selected through the Force, guided into position, assembled with telekinetic precision. The emitter matrix, the focusing lens, the power cell, the activation stud. Vader watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "A lightsaber is more than a weapon," Vader said. "It's an extension of your will, a physical manifestation of your connection to the Force." The Jedi teach that the crystal chooses the wielder, but the Sith know different. The wielder dominates the crystal, forces it to serve. Luke didn't respond. His concentration was absolute. The hilt took shape, black metal, sleek design, similar to the training saber he'd been using but refined. Personal. His. The red crystal settled into the housing. Energy connections sealed. The weapon was complete. Luke grasped the hilt with his prosthetic hand, ignited it. A crimson blade sprang to life, humming with dark power. The color was pure red, not orange-tinged like the training saber. True Sith crimson, the color of blood and rage and corruption. Luke stared at the blade. In its glow, his face looked pale, haunted, His eyes flickered yellow for a moment before returning to their natural blue. "How does it feel?" Vader asked. "Wrong." "Right. I don't know." Luke deactivated the weapon and clipped it to his belt. "It's mine. I made it. But it's not what I wanted. Not what a Jedi would carry. You're not a Jedi." "I know." Luke's voice was hollow. "I'm something else now. Something you've made me." "No." Vader stepped into the workshop. "I've taught you, trained you, shown you power the Jedi would never reveal. But what you've become, that's your choice, Luke. Every moment of anger you channeled, every lesson you absorbed, every line you crossed, those were your decisions. You manipulated me. I gave you options. I never forced you to bleed the crystal, to embrace the dark side, to stay here for 3 months instead of fleeing." Vader's respirator cycled heavily. "Don't surrender your agency, Luke. Don't pretend you're a victim. You chose this path. Own it." Luke wanted to argue, wanted to blame his father for everything. But Vader was right. Every step had been his choice. He'd taken Vader's hand on the gantry to save Han and Leia. He'd come to Mustafar to gain power. He'd trained in Sith techniques because he believed it was necessary to overthrow the Emperor. No one had forced him, and that made it so much worse. "What happens now?" Luke asked. "Now we prepare for Coruscant. The Emperor has been patient. I've claimed I was consolidating my hold on the Outer Rim, hunting rebel cells too occupied to return. But 3 months is his limit. He's summoned me to the capital, demands a personal report." Vader's mask turned toward Luke. "He knows about you. Suspects, at minimum. My extended absence, my altered behavior. The Force itself would have whispered warnings to him. So we're walking into a trap." "Yes, but we expected that. Palpatine's entire existence is traps within traps. The question is whether we're strong enough to survive his test." "What kind of test?" Vader was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried weight that made Luke's chest tighten. "He will demand you prove your loyalty, kill someone, destroy something, commit an atrocity that makes retreat to the light side impossible." Vader's hands clenched. "He did it to me, made me lead the assault on the Jedi Temple, made me kill younglings, children who trusted me, looked up to me. After that, there was no redemption, no going back. I was damned." Luke felt sick. "He'll make me kill someone I care about. Most likely. Leia would be his first choice, eliminating a rebel leader while corrupting you absolutely. If he can't reach her, he'll find another target. Someone whose death will break you." Vader moved closer. "You must be prepared, Luke. Prepared to refuse even if it means our plan fails, even if it means he destroys us both. But if I refuse, we lose our chance to kill him. Perhaps, or perhaps your refusal becomes the catalyst for our attack. The moment where we stop playing his game and force him to face us directly." Vader's voice was firm. "But Luke, hear me clearly. If you commit the atrocity he demands, if you murder an innocent to gain his trust, you will fall. Completely. Irretrievably. I've watched it happen to every Sith apprentice I've trained. The moment they cross that final line, something inside breaks. They become hollow. Nothing left but rage and obedience. Then what do? You trust the Force. Trust yourself. Trust that when the moment comes, you'll find a path between submission and defiance." Vader placed a hand on Luke's shoulder. "And you trust me. I won't let him have you, even if it costs everything." Luke looked at his father, at the black armor, the respirator, the mask that hid whatever remained of Anakin Skywalker. "Promise me something," Luke said. "Name it. If I fall, if I cross that line and become what he wants me to be, you kill me. Don't let me live as a monster. Don't let me hurt people the way you have." Luke's voice shook. "Promise me, Father. Please." Vader's respirator hitched, the closest thing to a sob the machine allowed. "I promise," he said finally. "But it won't come to that. I swear it." Luke wanted to believe him, but as he touched the crimson lightsaber at his belt, he wasn't sure belief was enough. Imperial shuttle, en route to Coruscant. They departed Mustafar 2 days later aboard Vader's personal Lambda-class shuttle. Luke wore black Sith-style robes similar to Vader's but without the armor. High collar, layered tunic, Mandarin-style shirt beneath, the aesthetic coded him unmistakably as a dark-side apprentice. His crimson lightsaber hung at his belt. His eyes flickered yellow when he drew on the Force, then returned to blue when he relaxed. He was a weapon now, forged on Mustafar, ready to be unleashed. The question was whether he could control himself when the moment came. "Tell me about the Emperor," Luke said as they hurtled through hyperspace. "His fighting style, his weaknesses." "Palpatine is the most skilled duelist I've ever witnessed," Vader said. "He mastered all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, but he rarely uses a blade. He considers it beneath him. His true weapon is Force lightning. It's faster than a lightsaber, impossible to block without a blade or force barrier, and paralyzes as it destroys. I've trained against your lightning. Mine is nothing compared to his. I can generate perhaps 10% of the Emperor's output. My damaged body limits my power. Palpatine can summon storms of electricity that fill entire rooms. Sustained. Overwhelming. He tortured me with it for hours after I failed him on Mustafar. Every nerve burning. My mind breaking. Begging for death that wouldn't come." Luke's jaw clenched. "How do we counter it?" "Redirection. Absorption. Your lightsaber can catch the lightning if you're fast enough and strong enough. But his preferred tactic is overwhelming force. He'll attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Lightning from his hands while using telekinesis to hurl objects, while attempting mental assault through the Force." Vader's voice was grim. "Fighting Palpatine is like fighting a natural disaster given sentience. Then how did you plan to overthrow him? Before I came along?" "I didn't." "Not really." Vader's admission was stark. "I spent 23 years fantasizing about his death, imagining scenarios where I might betray him. But every time I ran the calculations, every time I truly considered it, I knew I'd fail. He's too powerful, too cunning, too prepared for betrayal." "Then why?" "Because you changed the equation. 2 Skywalkers united, father and son, our powers combined. That's something Palpatine can't fully predict. He's fought individuals, manipulated singular apprentices, but he's never faced a family bond reinforced by the Force." Vader's respirator cycled. "That's our advantage, Luke. Our connection. If we can maintain it, support each other, refuse to let him divide us, we might have a chance. And if he succeeds in dividing us, then we both die, and the galaxy remains his." Luke stared out the viewport at hyperspace's blue tunnel. "No pressure." "None whatsoever," Vader replied with what might have been dark humor. Hours passed. They exited hyperspace at Coruscant's edge. The capital planet filled the viewport, a globe entirely covered in city, billions of lights glittering against the void. The heart of the Empire, the seat of power, the Emperor's throne. "We dock at the Imperial Palace," Vader said. "Proceed directly to the throne room. No delays. Palpatine will be waiting." "Will he attack immediately?" "No. He'll test us first. Probe our intentions. Search for weakness. The Emperor enjoys psychological torture as much as physical." Vader's hands clenched on the armrests. "Remember your Quaetech meditation. Hide your true thoughts. Let him see only what we want him to see." "What do we want him to see?" "A father who has successfully corrupted his son. An apprentice eager for power. A dynasty forming that could serve him for generations." Vader's voice was cold. "We give him his fantasy. Let him believe he's won. And when his guard drops, we strike." The shuttle descended through Coruscant's traffic lanes, past endless towers, through the government district, toward the Imperial Palace that rose like a mountain of stone and metal at the planet's heart. They docked in the private Imperial hangar. Red-robed Imperial guards waited in perfect formation, silent, faceless sentinels carrying force pikes. Vader and Luke disembarked. The guards parted, creating a corridor. "This way," Vader said. They walked through the palace, vast halls lined with dark stone. High ceilings that swallowed light. The aesthetic was deliberately oppressive, designed to make visitors feel small, insignificant, powerless before Imperial might. Luke felt his heartbeat accelerate. His hand moved to his lightsaber hilt. "Steady," Vader murmured. "Control your fear. Channel it into readiness, not panic." Luke took a breath. Another. Found his center in the Force, not the serene calm Yoda had taught, but the focused intensity Vader had forged on Mustafar. He was ready. They reached the throne room doors. Massive, black, carved with Imperial symbols. The doors opened. The throne room. The chamber beyond was circular, perhaps 50 meters in diameter. Black stone walls absorbed what little light the crimson fixtures provided. At the room's center, elevated on a dais, sat a throne. And on that throne, hunched and ancient, sat Emperor Palpatine. Luke's first thought was how wrong the Emperor looked. This wasn't the vigorous politician he'd seen in holographic records from the Clone Wars. This was something withered, decayed, yellow skin stretched over skull-like features, eyes that burned with unnatural fire. A presence in the Force that felt like a wound, a corruption so profound it made Mustafar's nexus feel clean by comparison. Lord Vader, Palpatine's voice rasped like sand over stone. How good of you to finally return. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten your master. Never, my master. Vader bowed. Deeply. The submission was absolute. Practiced over decades, Luke forced himself to bow as well. Every instinct screamed to resist, to defy, to ignite his blade and attack. But that would be suicide. And you bring me a gift, Palpatine's burning gaze fixed on Luke. Anakin Skywalker's son. How? Delightful. I have turned him, my master, Vader said. As you predicted. His compassion made him vulnerable. I used his friends as leverage. His desire to protect them became the seed of his corruption. Indeed. Palpatine leaned forward. Then you won't mind demonstrating, Lord Vader. Show me this fallen Jedi. Let me see what you've created. As you wish, my master. Vader turned to Luke. Ignite your weapon. Luke hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then he drew his lightsaber and activated it. The crimson blade sprang to life. Its glow painted the throne room red. Palpatine's eyes widened fractionally. A bled crystal? You taught him the ritual? Yes, my master. He completed it successfully. Overcame the crystal's resistance. Remade it in darkness. Fascinating. Palpatine rose from his throne with surprising fluidity for someone who appeared so ancient. He descended the dais, moving closer to Luke. Tell me, young Skywalker, do you know why your father fell to the dark side? Luke met the Emperor's eyes, remembered his training, hide his true thoughts, show only surface intentions. To save my mother, Luke said. He had visions of her death. You promised him power to prevent it, and he believed me. Foolish boy that he was. Palpatine circled Luke slowly. But you're different. You didn't fall from fear of loss. You fell from desire to protect. Noble intentions corrupted. Self-sacrifice twisted into self-destruction. Much more elegant than your father's crude desperation. I did what was necessary. Necessary. Palpatine's smile was a slash across his withered face. Yes, that's always the justification, isn't it? Necessary atrocity. Necessary compromise. Necessary surrender to darkness. And each necessity leads to another, until you wake one day and realize you've become the very thing you fought against. The words hit too close. Luke's jaw clenched. You're angry, Palpatine observed with delight. Good. Anger is honest. Anger is power. The Jedi teach suppression lies and weakness, but the Sith embrace truth. We are what we are. No pretense, no false nobility. I'm not a Sith. Aren't you? Palpatine gestured to the crimson blade. You carry a Sith weapon, forged in Sith ritual. You've trained in Sith techniques. Your eyes burn with Sith corruption when you draw on the Force. What are you, if not Sith? I'm Luke Skywalker. Are you? Palpatine's voice dropped to a whisper. Or are you Darth Zone, son of Vader, heir to Skywalker's legacy of destruction? A new name for a new identity. Would you like that, boy? Would you like to shed your pathetic Jedi name and embrace what you've become? Luke's hand tightened on his lightsaber. The blade hummed in response to his emotions. Vader stepped forward. My master, with respect, the boy is not ready for such honors. He requires further training before. I will decide what he's ready for, Lord Vader. Palpatine's eyes flashed. Or have you forgotten your place? Never, my master. The tension in the room was suffocating. Luke felt the power dynamics crystallizing. Palpatine asserting dominance, Vader submitting, Luke caught between. This was the trap, the test. Everything depended on the next moments. However, Palpatine continued, his tone shifting to something almost gentle. Lord Vader is correct that you require further refinement. Raw power without discipline is merely chaos. Fortunately, I am uniquely qualified to provide that discipline. You wish to train me? Luke asked carefully. I wish to complete what your father began. Vader has taught you to embrace darkness. Commendable. But he is limited, damaged, diminished, operating at perhaps a quarter of his potential power. I will teach you to transcend those limitations, to become what Anakin Skywalker never could. Truly powerful, Luke felt Vader's presence in the Force, a spike of concern, quickly suppressed. What would this training entail? Luke asked. First, a demonstration of your current abilities. I must assess what Vader has actually accomplished before deciding how to proceed. Palpatine moved back to his throne. Attack him, Luke blinked. What? Attack Lord Vader. Show me what you've learned. Hold nothing back. Palpatine settled into his throne, fingers steepled. Consider it your audition. Luke looked at his father. Vader's mask revealed nothing, but through the Force, Luke felt the message clearly. Do it. Show him what we want him to see. Luke raised his crimson blade into a gem-so-ready stance. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Vader said, igniting his own weapon. Show him your power. They engaged. Luke attacked with the aggressive fury he'd learned on Mustafar. Form V strikes augmented by Force speed. Every lesson Vader had beaten into him over 3 months of brutal training. Vader met him blade to blade. They fought across the throne room, crimson light flashing, the clash of weapons echoing off stone walls. To an observer, it looked real, fully committed. Father and son trying to kill each other. But through the Force, they communicated. Vader's strikes telegraphed. Luke's defenses coordinated. They moved in sync, a choreographed demonstration designed to showcase Luke's abilities while concealing their true connection. Luke scored a hit on Vader's shoulder armor. Deliberate, planned. Vader retaliated with a force push that sent Luke sliding backward, controlled, calculated. Enough, Palpatine commanded. They separated. Both breathing hard, Luke's eyes blazed yellow. Vader's respirator cycled rapidly. Impressive, Palpatine said. You've taught him well, Lord Vader. Much better than your previous attempts with the Inquisitors. This one actually has potential. Thank you, my master. However, Palpatine rose again. Technical skill is insufficient. True Sith power requires absolute commitment, willingness to sacrifice everything for strength. His eyes fixed on Luke. Tell me, young Skywalker, what would you sacrifice for power? Luke felt the trap closing. Anything necessary, anything. Palpatine's smile widened. How convenient. Because I have a task for you. A test of your commitment. Complete it, and I will accept you as my apprentice. Train you personally. Give you power beyond anything your father achieved. Refuse, and I will kill you where you stand. Name it. Captain Solo, the smuggler, currently frozen in carbonite aboard the Executor. He was your friend, was he not? Before you embraced the dark side? Luke's blood ran cold. Yes. Then you will execute him. Personally, in my presence. Thaw the carbonite, wake him from his frozen sleep, and strike him down with your lightsaber. Palpatine's voice was silk over razors. Prove that your old loyalties are dead. That Luke Skywalker is truly gone. That only Darth Zune remains. Luke couldn't breathe. Han. The Emperor wanted him to kill Han. Everything he'd done, joining Vader, training on Mustafar, bleeding the crystal, had been to save his friends, to protect them. And now Palpatine demanded he murder one of them as proof of loyalty. My master, Vader said carefully, Captain Solo is leverage against the rebellion. Princess Organa is irrelevant. The rebellion is broken. What I require is absolute proof of young Skywalker's commitment. Nothing less than the execution of his dearest friend will suffice. Palpatine's eyes burned. Well, boy, will you prove yourself, or will you cling to your pathetic Jedi attachments and die here? Luke looked at his father. Vader's mask revealed nothing. But through the Force, trust me, Vader's presence whispered. Trust the Force. Trust yourself. Luke made his decision. No. The word hung in the throne room like a death sentence. Palpatine's smile vanished. What did you say? I said no. Luke deactivated his lightsaber and clipped it to his belt. I won't kill Han Solo. I won't murder my friend to prove loyalty to you. If that means I die here, so be it. You foolish child. Palpatine's voice dropped to a hiss. You dare refuse me? After everything? After corrupting yourself? After falling to darkness? After bleeding a kyber crystal? You refuse the final step? Yes. Luke's voice was steady. Because I've realized something. The dark side isn't about power. It's about surrender. Surrender to rage. Surrender to fear. Surrender to you, and I won't do it. Not anymore. Then you will die. Palpatine raised his hands. Lightning erupted, not the focused bolts he'd used to torture Vader, but a storm of electricity that filled the throne room with white-blue fire. Luke ignited his lightsaber and caught the lightning on his blade. The force of impact drove him backward. His arms shook. The energy was overwhelming, exactly as Vader had warned. But he held. Impressive, Palpatine snarled. Vader taught you well, but you cannot hold forever. And when you fall, I will ensure your death is... Vader's crimson blade ignited and drove through Palpatine's back. The betrayal, the Emperor's lightning died. He looked down at the red blade protruding from his chest, eyes wide with shock. You? Palpatine gasped. You dare? Yes, Vader said, his voice cold as death. I dare. He twisted the blade. Palpatine screamed, a sound of rage and agony and disbelief. But the Emperor was not so easily defeated. Palpatine's body erupted with dark side energy, a nova of force power that sent both Vader and Luke flying backward. They crashed into opposite walls, armor and bones cracking from impact. Palpatine stumbled forward, the wound in his chest burning but not immediately fatal. His body was sustained by dark side energy as much as by flesh. He could survive injury that would kill a normal being. 23 years, Palpatine hissed. 23 years I invested in you, Vader, made you strong, gave you purpose. And this is how you repay me? With treachery? You made me a slave, Vader said, climbing to his feet. You murdered my wife. You destroyed everything I loved. You deserve far worse than treachery. And you, boy, Palpatine's burning eyes fixed on Luke. You played your part beautifully. Pretending to fall, corrupting yourself to gain my trust. Was it worth it? Was bleeding your crystal worth this doomed rebellion? Luke stood, lightsaber raised. It was worth it to see you bleed. Then let me show you what your sacrifice has bought. Palpatine's hands rose again. Let me show you the true power of the dark side. Lightning erupted again, but this time, it split, attacking both Vader and Luke simultaneously. The Emperor poured decades of accumulated power into the assault. The throne room filled with electrical fire. Stone cracked. Metal melted. The air itself burned. Luke caught the lightning on his blade, but the force was immense. His prosthetic hand sparked. Smoke rose from his robes. His vision blurred. Vader attempted to advance, to close the distance and strike again. But the lightning intensified on him, targeting the respirator, the armor's weak points, the damaged body beneath. Vader fell to one knee. His respirator began to fail. This is how it ends, Palpatine laughed. Not with your victory, with your deaths. Both Skywalkers destroyed. The last hope of the Jedi line extinguished. And I will endure, as I always have, as I always will. Luke felt his strength failing. The lightning was too much. He couldn't hold it forever. His blade would falter. The energy would consume him. No, Luke thought desperately. Not like this, not when we're so close. He reached out through the Force. Not for more power, not for greater strength, for connection. He felt his father, Vader, Anakin, the man beneath the armor, felt his pain, his regret, his desperate love for the son he'd nearly destroyed. Together, Luke sent through the Force. We're stronger together. Vader's presence answered, yes. They moved as one. Luke stopped trying to block the lightning. Instead, he redirected it, angled his blade to send the electrical current toward Vader, but not to hurt him. To empower him, Vader caught the lightning with his own blade, added his own force power to it, amplified it, and sent it back. The reflected lightning struck Palpatine with the combined might of two Skywalkers united. The Emperor's body convulsed. His scream was inhuman. The dark side energy sustaining him fractured. Luke and Vader advanced together, father and son, light and dark. Moving in perfect synchronization, Palpatine attempted to intensify his assault, but his power was fading. The wound in his chest, the reflected lightning, the strain of fighting both Skywalkers simultaneously. He was losing. Impossible, Palpatine gasped. I am the dark side incarnate. I am eternal. I cannot be. Vader's blade took his head. The Emperor's body collapsed. The lightning died. His presence in the Force, that massive corrupting darkness, suddenly vanished like a flame extinguished. Emperor Palpatine, Dark Lord of the Sith, Master of the Galactic Empire, was dead. Luke stood frozen, barely believing it. They'd done it. Actually done it. Killed the most powerful Sith in 1,000 years. And then Vader collapsed. The cost, Father. Luke rushed to Vader's side. The Dark Lord lay motionless. His respirator sputtered irregularly. The armor was cracked in a dozen places. Smoke rose from damaged circuits. The lightning, Vader gasped. His voice was barely audible even through the vocabulator. Destroyed, primary systems, life support, failing. No, we won. You're going to be okay. We'll get you to the medical bay. Luke. Vader's hand rose weakly. Listen to me. You have minutes before the Imperial Guard investigates. Before the palace locks down. I'm not leaving you. You must. Vader's respirator wheezed. Get to the executor. Free Solo. Rejoin the rebellion. Tell them the Emperor is dead. The Empire will. Fracture. Civil war. Use the chaos. Build something better. We were supposed to do that together. I know. Vader's hand found Luke's. Synthetic fingers gripped artificial palm. But I'm dying, just like on Mustafar. Except this time. I die as Anakin Skywalker, redeemed, forgiven by my son. You're not forgiven for everything. You can't be. You've done too much. I know. Vader's voice grew softer. But perhaps in time, you'll understand. Why I fell, why I did terrible things. And perhaps you'll forgive the man, if not the monster. Luke felt tears streaming down his face. I don't want to lose you. Not now. Not when we finally. Luke, take off my mask. Let me see you with my own eyes. Just once. But you'll die. I'm already dying. Please, let me see my son. Luke's hands trembled. He reached for the helmet seals, heard them disengage with mechanical clicks, lifted the heavy mask away. The face beneath was a ruin. Scarred, pale, barely recognizable as human. But the eyes were blue. Anakin's eyes, looking at Luke with clarity and love and terrible regret. You look like your mother, Anakin whispered. Padme, she would be proud of what you've become, of your strength, your compassion. I'm not strong. I fell to the dark side. I bled a crystal. You became what was necessary to save others, to stop Palpatine. That's not falling. That's sacrifice. Anakin smiled slightly. Tell your sister she was right. There was good in me. You both were right. Father, go now, before it's too late. Anakin's breathing grew labored. May the Force be with you. Always. His eyes closed. His chest rose once more, then stopped. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, hero, villain, father, was dead. Luke knelt beside his father's body, grief overwhelming him. He'd gotten what he wanted, overthrown the Emperor, saved the galaxy, freed his friends. And the cost was his father's life. I'm sorry, Luke whispered. I'm so sorry. But the dead gave no answer. Luke heard footsteps in the corridor, guards responding to the sounds of combat. He had minutes, maybe less, before they breached the throne room. He stood, looked at Palpatine's corpse, at his father's body. 2 Sith Lords dead, an empire without a leader, a galaxy about to erupt into chaos. And Luke Skywalker, fallen Jedi, corrupted apprentice, Sith weapon turned against his master, alone in the center of it all. He had to move, had to escape, had to complete what his father had started. Luke ran. The executor. 6 hours later, Luke reached the executor through stolen clearance codes and Vader's personal shuttle. No one challenged him. The crew was in chaos, rumors spreading that the Emperor was dead, that Lord Vader had betrayed him, that the Empire was falling apart. Luke went straight to the detention level. Han Solo's carbonite slab hung on the wall, just as Vader had promised. Alive. Frozen. Waiting. Luke activated the thawing mechanism, watched the carbonite dissolve, saw Han's body emerge, gasping, blind, terrified. Easy, Luke said, catching his friend as he collapsed. I've got you. You're safe. Luke, Han's voice was hoarse. He couldn't see yet. Hibernation sickness. That you? It's me. What? Where are we? Last thing I remember, Leia, she was. Oh God, they froze me. Jabba doesn't have you. You're aboard the Executor. But not for long. We're leaving. Now. Luke helped Han to the hangar, found another shuttle, Lambda class, fast, well-armed. Got Han strapped in, fired up the engines. Luke, Han said, his vision slowly returning. What happened to you? Your eyes, they keep changing. And that lightsaber on your belt, it's red. Why is it red? Long story. Luke piloted them out of the hangar, through the Executor's docking bay, into open space. I'll explain everything. But first, we need to find Leia. Find the rebellion. Tell them the Emperor is dead. Dead? Luke, what did you do? Luke looked at his hands on the controls, his prosthetic right hand. The hand his father had given him after cutting off the original. The hand that had held a lightsaber and killed the most powerful being in the galaxy. What I had to, Luke said quietly. What we all have to. Sacrifice. Compromise. Become something we never wanted to be, so that others don't have to. You sound different. I am different. Luke set course for the Outer Rim, where rebel cells were hiding. We all are. After everything, nothing's ever going to be the same. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, Coruscant erupted into chaos. Without the Emperor's iron grip, the Moffs would turn on each other, warlords would carve out petty kingdoms, the Empire would fracture into civil war. But somewhere in that chaos, hope would grow. The rebellion would rise, the galaxy would be free. And Luke Skywalker, no longer Jedi, no longer Sith, something new and uncertain and scarred, would help build whatever came next. Epilogue, the Rebel Fleet. 2 weeks later, Princess Leia Organa stood in the war room of the command frigate, surrounded by Alliance leadership. Mon Mothma, Admiral Akbar, General Medine, Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, and Luke, he'd found them a week ago, appeared out of hyperspace with Han Solo, alive and free. The reunion had been joyful, Leia throwing herself into Han's arms, Chewie roaring with relief, even the usually reserved Mon Mothma showing genuine emotion. But the joy had been tempered by Luke's appearance. The black robes, the red lightsaber, the eyes that sometimes burned yellow when he used the Force, the hollowness in his voice when he explained what had happened on Mustafar, on Coruscant, in the throne room. Luke had fallen to the dark side to kill the Emperor, trained as a Sith, bled a kyber crystal, become exactly what the Jedi would call corrupted. And in doing so, he'd freed the galaxy. Intelligence confirms it, Admiral Akbar said, his gravelly voice cutting through the tension. Emperor Palpatine is dead. Darth Vader is dead. The Empire's command structure is in complete disarray. At least 7 Moffs have declared themselves the rightful successor. 3 separate Imperial fleets are engaging in open warfare. The core worlds are locked down. Chaos everywhere, which means opportunity, General Medine added. The Empire is vulnerable for the first time since its founding. If we strike now, while they're fractured, we can liberate entire sectors. Or we could be walking into a meat grinder, Han countered. He still moved stiffly, hibernation sickness lingering. Just because Palpatine's dead doesn't mean the Empire is. They've got millions of troops, thousands of Star Destroyers. One man dying doesn't change that overnight, but it changes the spiritual calculus, Mon Mothma said. Her eyes were on Luke. The Emperor was the symbol of the Empire's inevitability. Its immortal face, learning he can die, learning he did die, that changes everything. Hope returns. Resistance becomes possible. People will rise up. They will, Luke agreed. His voice was quiet, certain. The Empire is finished. It might take years to fully dismantle, but it's over. The Sith are gone. The dark side's grip on the galaxy is broken. At what cost? Leia asked. She'd been silent through most of the briefing. Now she looked at her brother. Her twin Luke had told her, a revelation that still left her reeling, with concern and fear. Luke, you fell to the dark side. You admitted it. You bled a kyber crystal. You trained under Vader for months. How do we know you won't? Fall further, Luke finished. Become what Vader was? I don't know, Leia. I don't know if I can come back from this completely. Part of me is changed, Stained. The Jedi would call me fallen, irredeemable. But you're not a monster, Leia said firmly. I can feel it. Through the Force, you're still you. Still Luke Skywalker. Am I? Luke looked at his prosthetic hand. I'm not sure who I am anymore. Not Jedi, not Sith. Something in between. Something new. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs. Not perfect heroes, but people willing to get their hands dirty, to make hard choices, to sacrifice themselves so others don't have to. That sounds like a justification for atrocity, Mon Mothma said carefully. Maybe it is. Luke's yellow eyes flickered for a moment before returning to blue. But it's also the truth. The Jedi's absolute commitment to the light side made them blind. Unable to see the Sith rising right under their noses, the Sith's absolute surrender to the dark side made them slaves to rage and ambition. Balance isn't choosing one over the other. It's understanding both, using both, being strong enough to wield darkness without being consumed by it. Can you do that? Leia asked quietly. I don't know, Luke admitted, but I'm going to try, with your help, with all of you reminding me who I am, who I want to be, what we're fighting for. He looked around the war room. The Empire's falling, but something has to replace it. We need to build a new republic, one that learns from the mistakes of the old, one that doesn't breed the conditions that created Palpatine in the first place. Ambitious, Akbar said, but possible, if we move carefully. Consolidate our victories, form alliances with liberated worlds. It'll take years, Medine added. Decades, maybe. The Empire won't surrender peacefully, but with leadership, with symbols people can believe in, we can win. Then let's win, Leia said. She moved to Luke's side, took his prosthetic hand in hers. Together, brother and sister. Skywalker twins. If we can overthrow the Emperor, we can rebuild the galaxy. Luke squeezed her hand. Together, the briefing continued. Plans were made. Strategies developed. The rebellion, soon to become the New Republic, began its transformation from guerrilla resistance to legitimate government. And Luke stood among them, a weapon forged in darkness but aimed at the light. Uncertain, scarred, dangerous, but hopeful, because in the end, that's what the Skywalker legacy was. Hope. Not perfection, not flawless heroes, but people who fell and rose again, who made mistakes and learned from them, who sacrificed everything for the people they loved. Anakin Skywalker had fallen trying to save one person and destroyed millions. Luke Skywalker had fallen trying to save everyone and freed the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on him. As the meeting adjourned and the others filed out, Leia stayed behind. She looked at her brother, really looked at him, saw the yellow flicker in his eyes, the red lightsaber at his belt, the darkness that clung to him like a second skin. Are you going to be okay? She asked. Eventually, Luke said. Maybe, if I'm lucky. He smiled slightly. Yoda once told me the future is always in motion. He was right. I chose a dark path to reach a bright destination. Whether that path corrupted me permanently or just scarred me temporarily, we'll find out together. I'll be here, Leia promised. Every step, reminding you who you are. Who am I? Luke Skywalker, son of Anakin and Padme, Jedi Knight, rebel hero, my brother. Leia's eyes filled with tears, flawed, complicated, sometimes making terrible choices, but fundamentally good. I believe that. I have to. Then I'll try to be worthy of that belief. They embraced. Twins. Skywalkers. The last legacy of a family that had shaped the galaxy through blood and tragedy and impossible choices. The Empire was falling. The Sith were extinct, and Luke Skywalker, fallen Jedi, redeemed Sith, something new and uncertain and powerful, stood ready to help build whatever came next. The war wasn't over. Wouldn't be for years, but for the first time since the Empire rose, victory was possible. And that was enough. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.